What's up, guys? Welcome back to Cooking is Easy. Today, braised beef short ribs. Let's get started. So as you can see, we have these short little beef ribs. They have great intermuscular fat, as you can see. It's a cheap cut of meat, but guys, they taste delicious. Now, as you can see, these are bone-in short ribs, but that's okay because the bone adds a little extra flavor. Now, let's take them out of the package, spread them out. And let's go ahead and season them with a little bit of kosher salt. Make sure to rotate as you're seasoning. You want to get all sides of your short ribs. A generous amount of salt because remember we're going to braise these later. Some fresh ground cracked pepper. Again, turning constantly to make sure your meat is completely covered in seasoning. And lastly, a little bit of garlic powder, not too much. Now what you're gonna wanna do is take your short ribs and mop up all those yummy seasonings onto the beef. Now, let's head over to the pan. In a medium to high heat, add in some olive oil. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna brown the meat. If you try and brown your meat after you braise it, it'll just fall apart. So that's why you gotta brown them before. What we're looking for is a nice hard sear on these beef ribs. Make sure you push them down. You have a good contact with that pan. Swirl around that olive oil to make sure it's cooking evenly. And this is what it should look like. Nice golden brown color. Now we're gonna start turning them each one by one. We have to get all sides of our beef ribs. This shouldn't take more than a few minutes on each side. We're not cooking it all the way through. Remember, we're just browning it on the outside, so the pan has to be set to pretty high heat. This is what it should look like, coming along very nicely. Now we're almost there. This is what it should look like. Nice brown beef ribs. Now let's transfer them over to an aluminum tray. This is what they should look like. Nice dark brown beef ribs. Now head over to your cutting board, take 2 whole cloves of garlic and chop them up right at the top. Keeping them whole, you want to keep them as intact as possible and remove the little extra skin. You don't need that. This is going to add some great flavor to the braising. Now let's go make a sauce. Head over to your pan and add in 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, some beef broth, your whole garlic heads, and a few garlic cloves, and whisk together. You want to get everything to a nice mixture and simmer it for a few minutes. Now in a separate pan, add in your beef ribs and then add in that lovely sauce that you just created. Now a little trick is take your beef broth and to get all those yummy flavors out of the bottom of the pan and wash out your pan with some extra beef broth you have. And then add in a little bit more just to cover it. Now simmer that. And now we're gonna add in our red wine. You wanna add in enough just to cover the meat. Move it around, make sure all the meat is nice and tucked in. And now you're gonna wanna reduce this by about half. So that means simmering for about 15 to 25 minutes. This is what it should look like, coming along very nicely. And this is what it should look like after it's been reduced. You got a nice thick sauce around your beef. Now transfer them into the aluminum tray once again. This is what it should look like, guys. It's almost falling apart right now, but it's gonna get even better. Take your heads of garlic, throw them in there. Now take that lovely sauce and pour it over the beef ribs. Make sure you get all the goodies out the bottom because that's where all the flavor's at. Now tuck the beef into the sauce and this is what it should look like. Now you're gonna take some aluminum foil and you're gonna cover up your tray. Make sure you seal it completely, so use 2 sheets as I'm about to show you. Once you got it covered, let's head over to an oven set at 350 degrees for 2.5 hours. This is the braising portion and it's gonna come out great. Now let's make a quick topping for our beef ribs. Take some mushrooms. I don't like the stems, so I like to pluck them out, as you can see. These are baby bella mushrooms. Slice them up into nice even pieces. Try to get them as even as possible so they cook nice and evenly. And now we're going to take some lovely bacon. Open that bacon up, take about 4 slices out, cut it in half, then lay it on top of each other. And now we're going to cut it into thin little strips so they cook rather quickly. Again, try to make it as even as possible. And these are your ingredients for your lovely sauce. Now in a medium to high heat, add in your bacon. Let that cook out for a little bit. Mix it around, make sure all the pieces are touching the bottom of the pan. And when it's about halfway cooked, throw in your mushrooms. Give it a quick mix. And let it cook out for about 10 minutes. Look at that, looking gorgeous. Now at this time, our beef ribs are ready. They've been in the oven for 2.5 hours, and look at that. Guys, this is the most tender recipe you'll get for beef ribs, I promise. Now let's go ahead and plate. I'm using mashed potatoes. You can use rice or pasta, whatever you like, but I like this with potatoes. Now take some of that lovely juice, spoon it over. It's almost like a gravy for the potatoes. It's delicious. Garnish with a little bit of parsley. And lastly, put your mushrooms and bacon on top, and here you have it. Lovely, super soft, super tender beef ribs. This is one of the best recipes you will ever make. I promise you have to give it a try. Please like and subscribe to the video, and we'll see you on the next one.